Oi oi, welcome to the Ranking and Friends podcast. This is episode number 4 and my guest for today is Tim Exile. A man, a legend, a god of the improvised live electronic performance, creator of amazing plugins, and now working on a new project called Endless, with 3 S's, that he speaks a little bit more about. If you want to get on the beta list for Endless, you can go to endless with 3s's.fm or find them on social media. We chatted about everything really, from early days of wrong music and IDM to to his dreams of wanting to reinvent composition. Sure, why not? You know, if you've got a rainy afternoon to spare. I enjoyed chatting to him very much. I always do. He's a wonderful man, and I'm sure you'll enjoy listening to this podcast. So I bring you Tim Exile. The devil is in exile. Exile is in the devil. Sleep tight. Those were the days.
They were.
I know. I've played that on the show 3 or 4 weeks ago.
Wow.
Yeah, was that on Evil Intent's label?
That actually ended up being on 2 labels. I don't know if that's cool or not, but yes, its first outing was on Evil Intent's label. I think it was. I can't remember now. It was a double A side.
Yeah, what was the track on the other side?
Oh,
come on, Tim.
It wasn't by me.
Wasn't it?
No.
Oh.
No, it was a double A side with Evil Intent, actually, wasn't it?
Maybe. I've got it around here somewhere. We could have a look through. That'd be a fun start to the show.
Okay, yeah, the Rifling podcast.
Yeah. Tim Exile, thank you very much for joining me on the Ranking and Friends podcast.
Thank you, Will Rankin, for having me. Hi, Rankin. Will, I mean, are you Will or are you high?
I'm rarely high, not these days.
Right, yeah.
Well, only at festivals.
Right.
Yeah.
Hi.
Will.
Hi, Will.
It's a bit hot in here. The sweat patches are significant,
Pooling.
actually. Yeah, it's starting to pool.
It's starting to pool above my encroaching paunch.
Yeah, thank you for journeying across the 29-degree London today for me.
Oh, it's better. Actually, it's cooler en route than it is in my flat. So
yeah, you get on the right tube line, it's air conditioned.
Yeah.
Get on the wrong one, not so much.
Not so much. Yeah.
I will take a longer walk to work, meaning that I get the train to Dalston Junction. This is fun, isn't it? Because it's an air conditioned train.
Yeah.
And walk further distance. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, I do. Yeah, I do the same. Or bike. Yeah. I mean, bike is.
That's a lot more sweat with the bike, I found.
Yeah.
I've tested out different solutions, and apart from getting a door-to-door Uber,
ooh, yeah,
that's the only way to truly avoid the sweat.
Yeah, that is, but that's a bit high rolling. I'm not a high roller enough to Uber everywhere.
Kind of just expense it to, like, I don't know, IDM or something.
I mean, the IDM expense account, I think, was emptied in the late 90s.
Yeah, it was just Mike Paradinas and Aphex they just ran it dry on brasses, and going to strip clubs. Yeah, those wild nights with the IDM boys.
The IDM idiots. EDM idiots.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember the first time that I saw you play out wrong music in Brighton.
Oh, right.
Those were the days.
They were, actually, yeah.
At the Volks, obviously.
Yeah, they were very good days, actually. I still get kind of misty-eyed about the wrong music days.
About stripping away your clothes and attaching your groin to a MIDI controller.
Oh, no. You weren't at the one where I actually did get naked.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you were?
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a photo of that somewhere on the internet.
Yeah, I think it will come up with the right Googling.
It will. I mean, it's definitely slipped down the rankings, which it's not a great shame from my perspective. But
I think we can. I'm going to start the Make Tim Exile Naked again. I think a nice red hat would do very well.
The thing is that, I mean, the best feature of that photo is actually not me, because I mean the thing is, my crown jewels, bijou as they are.
The cluster, yeah.
The cluster. It's a fairly small cluster, so it's sort of hidden behind my leg. But the most the focus point of the picture is actually the guy behind, who's just the expression, and I don't think it's you.
No, it's not me.
It's
I was
not
watching
you.
from quite a distance.
But someone was just like,
yeah.
Anyway.
Well, you're at a night at the Vaults called Wrong Music, which featured largely artists performing on ketamine.
Yeah, I mean, it was...
What do you expect?
Yeah, it was a vibe. It was a zeitgeist.
Hey, it was wild.
It was wild. I probably wouldn't do it again.
No, I saw Henry
nowadays.
Slipmap do some... Shitmap, rather. Do some weird... some really weird things in there.
Yeah, I mean, that was the whole vibe. Well, because I lived with him at the time. It was me and Shitmat and Chevron.
Right, that's quite the dream team, isn't it?
Yeah, well, depends what kind of dreams you like to have. No, it was. I mean, it was great. It was because I just basically I just sort of come off the back of a bit of a sort of funny year, you know, like the year before I'd split with my girlfriend and I'd moved back in with my parents and it was all a bit blah, it all got a bit much, and I was just like, fuck it, I'm gonna just do this whole like musician thing and like have no money and just be a complete punk and do this whole wrong music thing. And so it was just like my punk phase.
Yeah, the punk
basically.
phase.
Well, I mean, it's not, that's the nearest, not as in like actual punk, but sort of
Just not caring
punk
about
as in
shit.
not caring about shit.
Don't tell me what to do.
Don't fucking tell me what to do. Yeah, basically a second teenage
Cool.
phase. I mean, I seem to have a teenage phase once every 3 or 4 years.
I think you can have that punk phase again when you get old. Like, once you get to about 70, people stop wanting to be told what to do then as well.
Yeah.
Like, I'm too old. Don't tell me what to do.
Yeah,
I'll do whatever I want.
Yeah, it's funny. I've got a really good friend of mine. So so I lived in Wiltshire from when I was like 18 to 25 in this like tiny little backwater town called Cairn, pronounced Cairn by the locals. And met his friend there, this guy called Graham. He might even be watching. If you're watching, Graham, hi. And he's now in his early 70s, but I met him when he was in his late 50s, and he was doing exactly that. He was having his like kind of post life, you know, he brought his kids up, got divorced from his wife. It shouldn't be like telling someone else's life story on camera, but anyway, he was doing this whole like grown up punk thing, and it was great actually. It was really kind of refreshing because it kind of in a way sort of taught me how to be a bit of a punk.
Nice.
Yeah.
Right.
Good.
What were your sort of main attitudes? Just more like just not wanting to conform.
What, in the wrong music days?
Well, just in your general punk outlook on the world.
Yeah, I mean, to be
take
honest,
down the establishment, smash the patrarchy, all of that.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
it probably just comes down to anger issues.
Yeah.
You know, stuff that I hadn't resolved. I mean,
it's never resolved childhood issues.
Well, yeah. I mean, you know, they still rumble on. I mean, it's nice. It's nice to romanticize these things and be kind of. I mean, you know, like I remember in 2007 when the whole Zeitgeist thing happened. You remember that movie, and everybody was just like, "Wow, 9/11 was an inside job," and and you know, we need to just unplug from the capitalist system. It's funny, like thinking back to that in the light of, you know, the political climate today. It's kind of like, yeah, you can sort of see some interesting things that we didn't predict, that we couldn't see back then, of like that it's turned into that. Anyway, and that kind of sparked me off, and for like a year or two it's just like, yeah, I'm going to live off grid. I'm going to like save up like 20 grand, buy a plot of land and build a straw bale house, and then like live with no money ever again.
Well, in the UK, that was the plan? Or are you going to go like, we're moving to Puerto Rico?
Well, I don't think the plan was actually well formed enough, but basically it was just another elaborate way of just saying like, fuck off, it's not fair.
Yeah. Just go and live the libertarian dream somewhere. Start hoarding packaged food. And get a lot of firearms together, maybe a few impressionable young women, that sort of thing.
Yeah, and nice. A big lead vault with like a Bitcoin wallet in it.
Yeah. God, if you'd have had Bitcoins in 2007, when did they start? Probably were around
2008, 2009.
Yeah, if you'd had a few from back then.
You'd had a few quid now.
You'd be all right, wouldn't you?
Yeah, really.
Even since the crash, you know. When did you start getting into like making wacky music then?
Oh,
because you would have been that would have been 2004-ish.
Yeah, the wrong music.
Yeah.
I mean, peak wrong music, or at least peak wrong music for me was 2005.
Yeah.
2006. No, 2005 was the peak. Well, I mean, so when I got when I got into making drum and bass, that was kind of 98, 99, and that was partly because I met John B at university.
Mm-hmm.
And up until then, I'd been making all sorts of different kind of stuff. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I made a bit of jungle. Well, I mean, when I say jungle, it's all in inverted commas because I just didn't know what the hell I was doing. It was all weird, completely off-genre stuff. Not because I was trying to make it off-genre. It's just like I just didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
And I'd made some house stuff. I'd made some like down tempo and some trip hop.
Sure.
Great. And then I met John B, and then I found out he was starting a record label. Just like, okay, let's make some drum and bass. So,
what was university age John B like? Was he as flamboyant as he was in a sort of?
Well, he was. I think he was the whole kind of electro like trance and bass thing that hadn't really happened yet. But I think it was definitely in the making. I mean, his persona then was more like kind of mad, the mad scientist thing.
Right, okay.
And all the publicity for his first album was around that, he was studying neurobiology.
Oh, yeah.
So it was all this kind of like mad, his hair all backlit with projecting sort of a matrix on his face, that kind of.
That was in the sort of pressure days, wasn't it?
Yeah. And I think it was, just a few months after that he started doing this whole trance and bass thing, and then became this like electro-y.
Because that was it. There was that trance and bass CD on the front cover of Knowledge Magazine. Was it Knowledge Magazine, or was it? I think it was Knowledge Magazine.
Oh yeah.
Or a DJ mag, or one of the big dance mags, and it had it was a John B mix of changed the world, man.
Yeah. Well, I think his kind of like outward persona might have shifted a bit, but John has always been John. I mean, he's really been unapologetically John, which is just amazing. Like in the times of like shifting fads and bandwagons and people jumping on them. I mean, he really has just like gone, nope, this is who I am, this is my thing, and he's stuck to it, which is one of the most admirable traits in an artist these days, I think, really. Yeah,
not a trait of mine, sadly, but, if there's a bandwagon to jump on, I'm chasing after it with a pitchfork. Come on, let me on, you bastard! I've got rent to pay!
Yeah, me too. I mean, I'm far too kind of like fickle and narcissistic to really just like stand my ground on much.
I don't know, because it's... If you've got to pay bills off the back of everything, it's a hard one to think, no, I'm going to dig my heels in here and really just go for, like, I don't know, I'm just going to make my thing, and if no one wants to buy it, no one wants to book me, then, fuck them, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, I did have a bit of a sort of experience of that kind of zone, like after I did The Mouth, the plugin with Native Instruments, and that was like a bit of a... I mean, in plugin land, it was a bit of a hit.
And good plugin.
Thanks, man. It did it, and I think it was just like the right thing at the right time. It was at the hot time of the whole auto-tune thing. So I mean, it sold really well, and that basically sorted me out financially for a few years. So it did give me that kind of luxury that is, I mean, it is a massive luxury basically, and that was so. I think I did at that time. That was when I decided, right, I'm going to sack off making records, and I'm going to just focus on this whole improv thing and just spend my time making technology and developing the flow machine and that kind of stuff. So I suppose I did get an opportunity to just go like, nah, I'm not doing that. Don't need to do that, and just focus on a thing. But yeah, I mean, it is.
Would that be the advice to anyone? Just make one really, really amazing plugin, and then that will free you up to
Yeah, but I mean, I think
any kids out there.
Yeah, but I mean, it's one of those annoying things that I don't think you can I don't think you can engineer that kind of stuff to happen.
No, invent the micro scooter and then live off that for a while.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Or why don't you just make Facebook?
Yeah.
Then you'll be sorted
out. Not a bad idea. That's worth billions. Just make that.
Well, I'll do that. Well, shoot, why didn't I do that before?
Yeah.
But it's, because I mean, it all looks like it was so kind of like well thought through and well planned and well intended, with the benefit of hindsight. But actually, I was just lucky. And it's a combination of like, I'd been dicking around with making stuff in Reactor for ages. And I just dug deep into a certain thing. I mean, I think that's like the main ingredient that people have in common to, people who've had this experience where something has just like hit the right thing at the right time and it's worked out well. It's generally been because people have just been digging, like, apparently for no reason whatsoever,
right,
for long enough.
Yeah,
and then you just like suddenly you have something. Everyone's just like, "What the hell is that? That's mental."
Well, if you go down enough rabbit holes,
yeah,
you will hopefully you sort of eventually get to China, if
yeah,
excuse the metaphor, but like, and the more rabbit holes you go down, the hope is that you sort of also get better at going down rabbit holes and knowing which ones to abandon and which ones to, go out. And as you spread yourself a little bit, oh, that's not cool, is it?
Woo.
Very.
So that's me. That's me calling you. I was just
for a laugh, just wind me up. That if you add additional strings to the bow as such, and you go down more rabbit holes, then the fruits are likely to be greater.
Yeah.
Because you have a sort of additional force multipliers.
Yeah, force multipliers. Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Like if you go like, oh well, I'm quite good at making music, and I've learnt to like develop stuff, and now I've also learnt to be like I could design a good UI, and now I can do such and stuff. And I can pile these all on together, and then like,
and then there's like a thing. Yeah. I mean, for the record, I didn't design a UI for the mouth.
No,
that was someone else.
Okay.
Yeah. But I did learn a lot about how to design UIs.
Yeah.
Well, not a lot, a bit. But yeah. I mean, general rabbit holes. I think you just have to dig, and like most of digging, 99% of the digging will end up in nothing, and it will be quite demoralizing and frustrating. I mean, the amount of like attempts I had at making the flow machine that. I spent months on, like really late nights, like really bad backache, that I just ended up throwing away because it just like got so far and I couldn't get it any further. And the same with everything. It's just like it just takes time. You have to get loads of stuff wrong, I think.
So can you, when developing like the flow machine, for example, can you just end up sort of painting yourself into corners with that?
Yeah, totally. Well, there's definitely a point with any kind of, I guess it's kind of like creative coding project, like the flow machine. You'll end up at some point in unmanageability. Yeah. Where it's just completely unmaintainable, and there's not much more you can do with it. Like even just adding the tiniest little feature involves you spending an hour like figuring out where that thing goes, and they'll always end up being. Well, at least this is the way I do it. I end up like I'll make some kind of like system or some sort of data structure for doing a thing a certain way that's actually like in its own right is really kind of well formed and neat, and then I'll build a bunch of stuff using that and then forget about it and then come back to it like a month later and then like, oh, do you know what? Maybe I need to take a different approach, and then you have all these different layers with like slightly different approaches and slightly different, even just like how you label ports and stuff. God, we're getting deep into the rabbit hole.
Going all the way
down into core.
What did you start making stuff on originally, like when to do the live performances with?
To do the live performances, I mean, it was always Reactor,
right?
So the first thing I made, well, it was around the time that Ableton 2 came out.
Ooh.
So we're talking 2003. I mean, I'd been messing around in Reactor since like 99, I think.
Okay.
But then it was like 2003 that I think my chops were good enough to actually make a thing that you could sort of do a whole live gig on. But I bought Ableton 2 because I wanted to make it do the stuff that I wanted to make Reactor do. And I was just like, well, maybe I can kind of hack it to do that kind of stuff. And it didn't. I mean, I think nowadays it probably does a bit more of it. But back then it didn't. So I was just like, oh, I'm going to have to make it in Reactor.
I was listening to the Gabourey Lounge thing yesterday. just like, I haven't heard that in a while. But then, like listening to the way that you would loop the vocals and mess around with that, I was like, how would I do that in Ableton if I had to? And I don't know whether or not even now some of the way we pick out different parts of the loop and stuff, and mess with it. I don't know how you would even do that now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know Ableton, and that's partly because I basically got locked into my own system. So by the time Ableton like got towards a point where it probably could have done the stuff that I was doing, I was so like, I had so many sunk costs in my own system. I was just like, well, I'll carry on developing that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think that the way that Ableton is set up to deal with clips of audio and stuff like that, I imagined that that it's designed to be able to do live clip launching, but it's also in this whole composition environment where you want things to be stable, you want things to be predictable, and you want to be able to ultimately lay things out on a timeline that goes from like A to B. Whereas the flow machine is like completely opposite. I mean, the main like design engineering benchmark for the flow machine is like, can you do it in one hit? You want a drum machine, boom, you're playing a drum machine. If you want to mash something up, it's just like boom, now you're mashing it up. So everything is like one click, or at least like a 2-finger thing, like a shift, a shift and a click. So it's one movement. It's not like menu. Look at the state the thing's in, see it's in that state, then go to that, and then choose that menu selection, and then set up there. It's pretty much just like go there. Now I'm doing that thing.
Yeah,
and that means you just end up building the system a different way.
So there's no timeline there. It's just all about what is happening in that moment.
Yeah, exactly.
That's kind of one of the things that I like about using the modular is that you've also like everything you make is it's sort of permanent and not permanent at the same time, in that once you've changed it. Like you can't get it back to exactly how it was, but then also you can't save anything.
Yeah.
And so you whatever you're working with at the time, that's all you have.
Yeah.
And you can record it in, but like you've just got you can record in individual loops and so on and so forth, but it's there's nothing like working with just sort of pure analog stuff that has no save features, no presets, no anything to get very much into the zone of actually really creating something out of nothing. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, I think the whole Eurorack thing, the whole kind of hardware jamming, the whole sort of like dual-list jamming. I mean, there's this big Facebook group on Facebook called dual-list jamming,
right? Yeah,
which it seems to be a real thing. It's an emerging phenomenon of people who are just like sick of being tied down to the timeline. And I mean, it's mostly just having to the tyranny of having to finish stuff, because what the music industry expects, what we've learned over the last 140 years since Edison first recorded sound, is that we haven't learned, but we've evolved into thinking of music as a product, as a finished thing that's like 3-4 minutes long, and that's all it is. And before we could record sound, music was just an activity. It was a thing that we came together to do socially. It was a thing that we formed social bonds. Everybody knew the forms of the folk music. Everybody could sing or bang a drum or be involved, and the music happened then. And then when it stopped, everyone went home and there was no more music anymore. Maybe lived on in people's memories, but you couldn't just go like, oh, I'm going to play that folk song on Spotify.
Yeah. You just have to hum it to yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, and it was, we've lost that basically. And I think, we haven't completely lost it, but it's really, it's been completely drowned out by the prevalence of recorded music. And I think people are discovering nowadays that it's really making, especially people who fell in love with music as a creative form, like as a form of expression for themselves. I think people are generally feeling a bit fed up with it, of having, the only thing that counts as music is a finished track. And then so you've got really interesting things like the Eurorack revolution and the hardware and this doorless jamming thing, where people just like, fuck it, I just want, I want to do music. I want to get into this flow. And I want that flow to be something that brings me into connection with other people. Because ultimately that's what it all comes down to. That's why we engage in these things. there's always an element to like a creative practice, whether it's music or film or photography or art, whatever, fine art, whatever it is. There's this kind of like the personal path of discovery, but even the fruits of that personal path of discovery only really make sense when they come in contact with an audience. So really, it is it's defined by it's a social thing. And what's really interesting about what's happening with Eurorack and hardware is you've got it's such a community-led thing, especially Eurorack. The manufacturers are kind of part of the community.
Yeah, no, 100%.
And then you've got these Facebook groups emerging where people are coming together to talk about their kit, they're coming to talk about their process, and they're coming together to share their performances, and they're streaming their performances, and people are posting little clips of stuff to Instagram. And none of this is like mixed down, none of this is mastered, and none of this is uploaded to Spotify. Well, maybe some of it, a very small proportion of it is. But the point is, it's like it's a live, ongoing community activity. Anyway, sorry, I'll get off my shoebox.
No, you can do another hour and a half of that. It's absolutely fine. But one of the other things that I've noticed with it that I think there seems to be people seem to be again is that there's a barrier to entry again for it. Like, back in, let's say, 98, if you wanted to release a record, you had to dump up the money somehow if you were going to do it yourself to pay for all the vinyl, or you had to get a label to sign you. And and you had to find the equipment to make it on. And I guess in some ways it made it elitist, but if you really wanted to do it, you could find a way of getting to the equipment. But now, like in 2018, it's you could make stuff with an app, a free app, or you could get some crack software. There's a million YouTube tutorials to do stuff, and you can very quickly make something and then upload it to Spotify via some online distributor with no gatekeeper anywhere, or you can put it onto YouTube, or you can put it onto SoundCloud. Whereas if you're going to buy a Eurorack system, you're going to have to scrape together, like, you're going to have to save up your pocket money for like a couple of grand's worth of modules. And and if you don't earn a lot of money, you're going to have to you'll really value that and really, think very carefully about it. It's like, oh, if I want another, another VCF or something, well, that's going to cost me another 250 quid. Like, I really need to think about like whether or not that's the next bit of the system that I need, or whether or not I need another clock, or I need, or actually maybe I just need more bloody stackable cables. And so it kind of gets away from the fact that that anyone can do anything with it. And then that combined with the sort of pure creativity of it.
Yeah. It's interesting the whole anyone could do anything. So what, 20 years ago now, getting on, that's what, when the whole, like, when you could get cracked software, you could get a cracked copy of Cubase and make stuff, or, basically for free. And then theoretically you could upload it to... you could upload it to SoundCloud for free, or you could put it on Spotify for free. But it's sort of free. But then the problem there is that there's such a glut of music on SoundCloud and Spotify that it's just so hard to cut through the noise. So what you end up with is you have this huge glut of music. Most of it, people haven't really acquired all the skills you need to make music of the standard that people expect. So you've got loads of people like flooding these services, like trying to get attention for stuff that isn't quite like up to par yet, and would be in years to come when people just kind of picked up all the skills. But you've kind of got two problems there. One of them is like the massively high standard. The other one is the amount of stuff that people are uploading, and the amount of just attention we have. It's quite. You have to make quite, even to listen to one piece of music, you have to make quite a commitment. It's like to listen to a whole track. I don't know, back in the day when I was making drum and bass, each track would be about 6 minutes.
Oh, and the rest.
Oh, and the rest, maybe 6 or 7 minutes. Double drops. I didn't know. Maybe they had triple drops these days. But I mean, half of that would end up being mixed in or mixed out. But you've got at least you've got like 3 or 4 minutes core stuff. Like the musician wants you to listen to 3 or 4 minutes, and if someone one of these kind of like chuggers and charity, the people who want you to sign up to a charity in the street stops you like on your way somewhere and says, do you mind, can I have 3 or 4 minutes of your time? You'd be like, 3 or 4 minutes?
Yeah.
You've got to be joking.
Yeah, have a quid on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, have a quid and go away.
Yeah.
So, the ask to ask someone for 3 or 4 minutes of their time to like listen to a piece of music and they've never come across you before it's a big ask.
Yeah.
And I think well, basically, I mean, my bet is, and that whole thing about endless is like the way this whole system is set up I don't think works. It doesn't. It's a broadcast system basically.
Right. Yeah.
Where
Yeah.
You have an elite. You have an
yeah.
elite of creators, who we've had the fortune, and have probably spent the fortune to kind of like, become creators. We put a lot of effort in. We've learned. It takes years to learn the chops. And it takes years of hustling, and you have to be in the right place in the right time and know the right people, and so it's just a massive expenditure, and you really have to absolutely love it loads to have the momentum to like get above that barrier where you're making music that kind of like makes the cut, and you're reaching audiences. And
you can tolerate the industry.
And you can, exactly.
Like
you can
the
tolerate
restraints that are
there. which are massive. I mean, the amount of time that musicians spend actually enjoying making music is, it's a tiny percentage of the time that people actually spend making the music. I'm talking about when you get to the point of making albums and stuff like that and releasing them.
Or even like, the thing with making music and really, really getting into it is really achieving that flow state, isn't it? Like when you are actually and doing improvised live stuff is one way to really, really get into that flow state. Like it's that bit where suddenly everything sort of else falls away. You're so utterly concentrated on the task in hand that you've no real concept of time or anything, and you're not thinking about, you're not distracted by anything else. It's like it's a problem that is not so difficult as that you can't solve it, but just difficult enough for you to really get your teeth into and really start picking apart. And it's that part of making music which is the really genuinely amazing, enjoyable bit. Yeah. For me, anyway. Like maybe some people really like that last 5% of it where they're trying to mix it down and A and B it with a fucking noisier track. Or like, but it's that's the bit that I believe they call the vibe.
That is the vibe, yes.
The elusive vibe.
Elusive vibe. It's interesting, like how you put that, and also that there's that little bit of friction as well, because you don't, if you're just like, going round the same, if you're doing exactly the same things, using the same breaks and using the same synths or whatever, and kind of like putting them together in a different order, after a while it dries up a bit. You have to have that kind of, there has to be some kind of like edge of discovery. Yeah. And you have to be like nudging up against your comfort zone to still keep in that flow state. Otherwise, it just becomes mechanical, I guess. Yeah, that's it. And and then the fun is lost, and it's it becomes more like work. Yeah, it becomes like, I remember I did a stint making sandwiches in a sandwich factory when I was a student. Oh, in a sandwich factory? In a sandwich factory, not just a sandwich shop? No. It was a factory. It was like proper conveyor belts. And it was like 2 tomatoes, 2 tomatoes, 2 tomatoes, 2 tomatoes, 2 tomatoes, 2 tomatoes, 2 tomatoes. Anyway, for like a really long time. And you really got bollocked if you didn't put the 2 tomatoes on the right place. And it was like really pressure on. Minimum wage, I hope. Yeah, it was. Well, no, there wasn't minimum wage back then. I think it was £3.50 an hour. How old were you? 20. £3.50 an hour. Yeah, but that was in 1832. Yeah, I got paid £2.90 an hour once for working in Budgeons when I was 16. Right, because you didn't have to pay there wasn't a minimum wage for under 18s. Yeah, so. Yeah. When did the minimum wage come in?
I don't know.
Yeah. Do we need to look? No, we don't need to look this up.
No, this is where I need someone over there. Just pull that up, would you?
Yeah. Jeeves, pull up the minimum wage.
Do you like the minimum wage? Not keen? No. Okay. Yes, we want for absolute free market capitalism, don't you, Jeeves?
Yeah.
Okay.
Race to the bottom, I'd say. Pay them all a pound now.
Yeah. Let the markets decide.
The invisible, creepy hand of the market. Yeah, I don't think there was a minimum wage back then, but
I'm sure there's been one for a while, hasn't there? I want to say like the 70s or something it came in, or... Yeah. All right, I'm looking it up, Tim.
What? Oh, really? Oh, no.
No, you've driven me to it.
Because I remember, 97, that was when I left school, age 18. And then I got a job.
97.
97. It was 97. Right. Okay.
Oh, then it took effect on 1st of April 1999.
Right. Okay. Yeah. No, that does make sense. So, and was it £3.50?
Come on, Wikipedia. We can do this.
£3.75 or something.
The national minimum wage took effect on the 1st of April 1999. On the 1st of April 2016, amendment to the Act attempted an obligatory national living wage. No, it was £7.83 an hour when it came in.
What, in 1999?
That's for if you're over 25.
Right.
$7.38 for workers between 21 and 24. $5.90 for workers between 18 and 20. So it sounds like you were getting shafted.
Man, right. Wow.
Take him to court for retroactive payment.
But I think that was all before 99. So because I worked at that, I worked at the Lansdowne Strand Hotel. Tim speaking. How can I help?
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Any good?
It was terrible. It was really
character building.
It was really character building. Yeah. And this is obviously no disrespect to the hotel now. It's a charming place. Mm-hmm. Actually, that's where I met my friend Graham. Actually, because he had a barn he owned a barn outside around the back of that hotel that he was renovating. Anyway,
Graham the Punk.
Graham.
Right.
Graham. Actually,
call back to earlier.
Described him as a new age pensioner. That was my nickname for him.
The new age pensioner. Nice.
Yeah. Good times that. Yeah. Funny, like the jobs the odd jobs that I did in my 20s. And like late teens, right. Making sandwiches. I was a receptionist at a hotel. I also, I insulated Graham's roof. Like it was a proper timber roof, and like putting up battening and then like cutting out bits of.
Quite a lot of Graham-based work. Is he grooming you?
I don't know.
Now's probably as good a time as any to come clean about this. That was the early noughties.
Well, I mean, if he was, we had a very long ongoing friendship,
right, okay.
in which nothing ever happened. So if he was, then he wasn't very good at it.
I guess you've got to hone your skills, haven't you?
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, maybe you don't the first one. Maybe you were the one that got away. Poor Graham. Bless him. Off topic there. Sorry, we were talking about flow state and music for a second, and somehow got sidetracked by the minimum wage.
The epitome of the flow state. It takes you to strange places.
Yeah, I wasn't thinking about anything else. So Endless has come along now. This is the new
thing. Yeah.
Okay, you said you were prepared to share some information about it, but not all information about it.
Well, I mean, yeah, I was probably the best thing to talk about is like explain a little bit about why we're not saying everything about it. I mean, the main reason is actually basically we've built loads of stuff,
right?
And it could do loads of stuff, but actually, what we really want to do now is kind of start a conversation with people and actually work out. Really try to figure out like what is the best stuff to focus on now, and what is the best stuff to really hone and release first.
Okay,
really.
So I'm going to make some assumptions. One, that it's a piece of music software.
There is some music software involved with it.
Right. Okay. Two, it will have an improvisational quality to it.
There is an improvisational quality to it, definitely.
Yep.
Yeah.
Will there be a collaborative quality?
There is a collaborative quality to it.
Self-facilitating media node.
Self-facilitating.
Should
Should I know what that is?
A Nathan Barley reference.
Oh, right, okay.
Worry.
Oh, right, yeah, okay, yes. Well, yeah, okay, yeah.
It's sponsored by trashbat.com. Okay, so collaborative, improvisational. It's got a fancy name with more letters in it than it should have.
Yeah, that was for try getting endless with two S's dot anything.
Try getting anything decent spelt correctly.
Yeah,
anything.
Dot
these
anything.
days.
Yeah,
like, they're all gone.
They're all gone. Yeah, actually, funny enough, Amazon owns endless with two S's.com.
That's ominous.
Which is ominous. And also try getting a trademark on endless with two S's or endless with two S's anything. So, and also, I mean, it's not literally just to like avoid all these things. It is, because it's endless.
Yeah.
See what we did there?
I did, yeah.
Yeah. So there's a bit of a pun to it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Will it have some kind of social network capabilities?
Well, I mean, who knows? I mean, maybe.
Any hardware to go with it?
Oh God, you already get it. Okay, yeah, you know how to work a man.
Go a bit of left, right. Come on, he's on the ropes now. Okay.
Well, I mean, in our grand fantasy for like what it is, we have not thought about hardware.
Okay, yeah, cool. Yeah, nice.
But there's like the big kind of the dream thing. Basically, in any kind of like startup scenario, which is FYI, like a whole fascinating thing. I've in the last like couple of years, I've had to learn about all this like startup nonsense, which I just kind of had just been like, I never want to know about that. Yeah. But actually, are
you working agile?
We are working agile. Yeah,
nice,
we work in sprints.
Yeah.
It's good. Yeah, it's a really great way.
Did you read the Lean Startup?
I did read the Lean Startup.
It's a good book.
It is a good book. It is a very good book. I think the Lean methodology, or dare one say the Church of Lean, has probably had peak Lean, because if you for people who haven't read the Lean Startup, basically the idea is that you build and test. You have this build and test loop. Build, test, get feedback. Build a new thing, test, get feedback, and you want to make that loop as short as possible. So basically, you take a week and you build like a really shit MVP, minimal viable product.
Yeah.
And you get that out to customers like in a week, and you get feedback on it, and they tell you where it doesn't work, they tell you where it works, and then you iterate on that, and you keep on doing it that way. The analogy that he uses in the book is the difference between like launching a rocket and driving a car. Launching a rocket, you'll have decades of research and decades of planning, or maybe not for a single rocket launch, but by and large you'll do years of planning and calculations, and then you set the thing off, and once you set it off, you have no control.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, it's totally fingers crossed. And then with driving a car, you're adjusting to your environment at every second.
Yeah, or you can start with a bloody soapbox on wheels and push it down a hill. And then go, well, that's kind of fucked at the bottom. I guess we adjust the steering a little bit and push it back down the hill.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And even when you're driving the car, you're making adjustments as you go. So the thing is, if you build stuff like that, at its like complete sort of like ad absurdum, you take the Lean Startup methodology to the absurd, and you basically end up with completely visionless products.
Yeah.
And I think if you're completely like market driven kind of person, where you just you do loads of market research and you're just like, oh, I see a gap in the market there where there's a new way to sell insurance to people, or like people have a pain point in like this process in buying their insurance. Okay, we can come up with a solution to help that process, and you start you build a new platform, and then literally there is no vision behind it whatsoever. The vision is basically to make some money out of an unexploited niche.
Yeah.
And you literally just go to your potential customers and they tell you exactly what they want from the product and exactly how it works and doesn't work. And I think that is like, yeah, ultimate lean methodology will lead us to like a completely bland world.
Yeah.
So it needs some kind of vision, and if you've got, because I mean, Endless is, it did basically come from the Flow Machine and everything I learned from the Flow Machine, and so it, I definitely have like a vision of like how humans could be musically, which is, in part a kind of artistic vision. It's partly utopian, and so you end up when you're kind of vision led. Well, I think like all startups go through that, or not startups, but all people who like are in my position, who basically like a sort of creators stroke like fantasy, like,
visionaries.
Well, head in cloudsy, like wouldn't it be great if the world was like
idealists?
This?
Yeah,
idealists. Then I think you always start off basically building way too much stuff without asking people what they actually want. And then you realise that, okay, we got to the point. I mean, now we're at the point. Like, I was talking with the team today. Like, we're at the point where we realise that we've built so much that we literally cannot make any more decisions ourselves about what we're building. We have to like start putting it in people's hands.
Yeah.
And go, okay, like you take this. Tell us what we've done wrong. Tell us what we've done right. Tell us where you'd like to take this.
Yeah, it's working out the balance between what the feedback you get and basically, I don't know, determining which pieces of feedback will you act upon, will you pivot upon, or whatever. Because if you can't please everyone all the time, and then obviously you don't want to sacrifice too much of your vision and to ultimately end up with that sort of bland. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, and there are so many. There are so many variables as well, because we're also we're looking for investment now, because not because like we just want to be Silicon Valley types. It's just like the project needs money, and I've put way too much of my own money in. I've put basically everything into it and it got to the point where it's just like, wow, I'm kind of like over leveraged. And so yeah, no, we're looking for investment, and that's a whole other thing. The people who are going to put money into a business, they have very different concerns, and they end up wanting to see things that you just, it all impacts on like what you do next and what you say next, and
investors do like it when people have put a load of their own money in first, because if you're not prepared to put anything of your own on the line, why should we put anything on the line?
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, no, they're skin in the game. They say they like to see skin in the game. So yeah, they've definitely seen that I've got some skin in the game.
Yeah, you've got a track record as well of producing good stuff. Like from how many plugins have you done for Native now?
It's three for Native, and then how many on my own shop? Now 5.
What was the last one? Slow or
Slaw? There's Slow, Slew, Slaw, and Flows. Oh, and there's also one I did ages ago, the Mouth Interactive EP.
Oh,
which is one of these
I missed that one.
Oh, and that was kind of like post them out. I mean, it's like 7 years ago now.
Right. Okay.
Many years. That's many years.
Yeah. I got a lot of use out of the Mouth for various different things. Well, one just for fun, putting vocals through it.
Yeah.
But it's turning stuff into other stuff, isn't it? Let's put drums into it. Let's put everything into it.
Yeah.
Like make very interesting content for sample packs by really mangling stuff through there a few times if
right. Okay. Well, you did like multiple mouth passes.
Can do. Yeah.
Wow, it sounds like an operation.
A little bit, yeah. But very, very mad scientist in a way. Like, I know, let's run it through again
and again.
Let's put 7 instances of sausage fattener on it. I'm going all the way in.
Is there a preset called sausage fat?
Yeah.
Is there?
Yeah, if it's become a bit of a running gag. Like it was made by those guys Dada Life.
Oh right.
And it's just like a limiter, like a brick wall limiter. It's got a sausage on it, and you turn it up, and the sausage gets angrier and angrier.
Yeah.
And it basically just mashes. It just obliterates
all the transients.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess you could stick it on your master and just sort of
just keep on
keep going and. But it became a kind of running joke for like, just put sausage fat on everything.
Right,
yeah.
Yeah.
And some people, so they do. But I've seen it.
Yeah.
Like, that sounds really good. Take all the sausage fatness off. What? How have you done that?
Yeah. I mean, it is amazing the amount of like, if you put the right magic plugins on things, like how good you can make stuff sound without really putting any effort in. I mean, I think back to when I was producing regularly, which I kind of miss. Like the numbers of plugins that I put on each individual channel. I mean, it was like I was like really not approaching it the right way. I just put like, most channels would have like 3 different EQs, like with all the bands maxed out doing something and just like contradicting each other. It's like
that sounds like my tracks nowadays. Yeah. No, I get people like to talk to breakage in here. It's like, oh no, you only turn stuff down with EQ. You shouldn't be boosting stuff like. Fuck off. What? If I've got stuff like being boosted by about 25 decibels, what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
Come on.
Totally. Yeah. I mean,
just take 200 hertz in that snare and just go at it. That's what pendulum do, isn't it? Come on. But why don't my tunes sound like Rob Swires?
Yeah. It's fun actually, like trying to get the Flow Machine to sound good over the years. And it does sound a lot better than it did like originally. Just like tweaking the signal path. And I think when I first made it, I had compressors on all the individual sources, like the drums and all the individuals had their own compressors, and then there was like a master compressor on the output. And it just didn't sound right. And now actually I've just got, I think on the output stage of the Flow Machine, there's 2 compressors. There's like a short range, or not short range, just very short, like get rid of the brutal transients. Right. And then there's a really long range one that's just, no, I think it's a long range, long release, basically.
Right.
So really slow attack, slow release compressor, and then like a fast attack, fast release compressor after that. And just getting that just right. It sounds fine. There's no EQ.
Right.
There's no anything else. I mean, there's just, I can kind of mix the levels on the loops. But it's just a compressor. And I think it's interesting, with the whole like modular thing coming in now. I mean, people, well, I think, like Richard Devine, he puts all his stuff through this distressor. Is it the distressor that, like, just proper nuke compressor that just makes all the transients sound like popcorn and sellotape. Yeah. And
there's an Ableton preset that does that everyone loves as well, called OTT.
Right.
Basically Skrillex's everything.
Yeah. And the thing is, you can kind of poke fun at this, put a sausage fattener on or put OTT on or whatever, but it does kind of work, and it is kind of good enough.
Hey, if it sounds good, it sounds good.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter if you've managed to make it by, I don't know, lying in a bath, hitting yourself in the head with a saucepan or something. Like, that snare's really good.
Yeah, God, I'm really glad that he sat in the bath with a saucepan.
That sounds rubbish.
That thinks like raver on 9 pills.
Yeah. One of the things actually that has. We spoke about this when we were in Rotterdam together a few years ago.
Rotterdam or anywhere.
Yeah,
anyway,
quite.
Sorry.
Fucking flight was cancelled on the way home. I had to hang around for an extra
no,
night in a hotel. It was a nightmare, Tim.
Oh, yeah. No, I remember. Yeah. Shit.
Yeah,
because I had a different flight. Yeah.
I ate some hash cakes, went mad.
Oh,
just in the hotel on my own. Ooh. I was like, I'll get some hash cakes then. This will probably be fine. Wasn't fine.
Oh no! Did it? Oh, I do
it every couple of years just to test myself. Ooh. Yeah. So what was Alex Jones saying? He's like, I tested once a year to see if George Soros is altering the THC in marijuana. But yeah, so we were chatting about like various incarnations of live improv setups that I've sort of done for particularly like it seems like it's much easier to do it for house and techno than it is to do it for drum and bass.
Yeah.
For a start, it's just like the particularly like hard neuro-y drum and bass, like those sounds, you're just not making them with hardware. I don't know, like, and so without doing something that's quite a lot heavily sample based, like I could fill the Octatrack with loads of stuff, but don't know. But one of the things that has kind of put me off a lot, and I think is like a problem to be solved, is the concern of actually how it sounds coming out of the speakers in terms of basically the loudness wars fucked it.
Right, yeah.
Like if you know if you're going to play a hard drum and bass track that's been mastered within the last 5 years, it is ridiculous. It's just a brick of noise. And like if you've got a DJ on before you playing that and a DJ on after you playing that, you're going to sound like a duck farting in the fog.
Yeah.
Like what am I going to put on the output chain that's going to even vaguely make something that's improvised sound like I can accept that it's never going to you're not going to make a mastered track come out of the speakers, but you need to get it. Still, you need to get some really serious welly in there, and if you're going to try and do like hard drum and bass, it's very off-putting. I don't like. I was just wondering what what are the ways round it? Like, is like okay, well maybe I have the drums and the bass sort of pre-done, and I'll just improvise around that.
Yeah.
Or like,
I think. I mean, I think it's the problem as you formulate it is unsolvable. Well, within the box that you present the problem. Yeah. Because it's a whole context thing. It really comes down to the context. I found this when I was doing, sort of early era Exile shows. Where I was, playing at drum and bass gigs, and I've had that very same experience a lot of times. Coming on after a DJ who's just been like just slamming out incredibly well produced tracks that are incredibly mastered, incredibly loud, and so on. And then I come on, and it's like
yeah,
and everyone's just like, this DJ is shit.
Yeah. What's he got a Madonna headset on for? What's wrong with him? Is he on drugs?
Yeah. Oh man. It's. I think basically it's just the whole context, the whole kind of like tool chain, if you like. Well, not even a tool chain, but the drum and bass scene, and to a large, the house scene and the techno scene. They just need they're already set up in that way. They're kind of like entrenched industries in some way that just the expectations are there, and you're not going to be able to change the expectations like in that context. It needs a new context. And as we've music always music and its context kind of like go hand in hand. Like musical style, musical context, and also technology. They march forward together. Well, they don't march forward. They march in like totally weird directions that no one can predict. And people will say, like the 303, classic example. People figured out how to make acid house with 303s.
Yeah.
Thus, a new genre was born. But then also, the technology of, like turntables. Technics made really solid turntables that you could scratch and so on, and that spawned new genres, and then you get like context stuff like I know I'm trying to think of an example. I'm clutching at straws actually, but take it on my word, context affects stuff.
It is, yeah. And also like if you like when I do a normal DJ set, I could easily play 50 records in an hour.
Yeah,
just of hard drum bass, and that would be fine. No one would even be like, "Oh, he's playing a lot of tunes. He's mixing them quickly." No, it would be the sort of expected speed at which they come out.
Yeah,
like if you can do a live thing for an hour, like
Yeah.
You're not going to
Might
have
get
like
3 or 4 tunes.
yeah, you're not going to have
Yeah.
50 significant changes.
Yeah.
But like if you're going to do house and techno, you can easily go, oh, I can get 6 minutes out of each sort of like, even though when I've done like fully improvised live house things, I've gone, right, okay, so I've got, you have in your head roughly where you think you might go. I know how the first 10 minutes is going to sound, but then I'm like, all right, well, I'll change key at this point, and then this point here, and then I know I can get to that bit over there with that drum style. That's gonna But yeah, you can easily string something along for 6-10 minutes in deep house, and it's absolutely fine, and then you're not so worried about the thing. But the reason I've thought about it so much is I feel like it's if you really did manage to crack it, it would be amazing, like for drum and bass, if you could really like get like this super heavy thing. But I don't know. I think it's to come back to the kind of context thing and how styles evolve. I mean, the drum and bass. I mean, I assume it's still the case nowadays that it's all about the drop. Yeah.
And it's that that's your moment of glory. But past records don't really have drops. They
not in the same
evolve.
way, no, yeah.
And I think it's interesting to think about. I mean, I've done zero research about this, but it's not as if like the drop just came like that spaceship out of like District 9 just suddenly kind of landed, just like, oh my god, like the drum and bass scene now has the drop and it's arrived. It evolved. And how it evolved, we don't know, but at some point, someone like mixing some records together and then just like slammed another one in, or there was a moment where 2 tunes just like the beat came in all at once and the crowd were just like went absolutely mental, and then so there were some producers there that night were just like, oh okay, yeah, that worked really well, go and work on this whole drop thing. So it would have evolved like that. And then look at the deep house scene, and you've got other like the tropes, that the language that you communicate with the dance floor and the language that the dance floor has come to expect is different. Things evolve. Like say the minimal techno thing. It all got so stripped away that like adding a hi-hat was a drop.
Yeah, basically, it's just stick an off-ride on and you're good to go.
Yeah, and but these things also these things kind of evolve, but then those forms that evolve become entrenched, and then other things they become like non-negotiables. So I mean, nowadays it's non-negotiable. Like having a drop in a drum and bass track, you don't. I mean, people have probably tried it, but I guess
having one.
It's like not having a drop in a drum and bass track.
No, just to really just fade stuff in really slowly. I mean, you can even get to that like, the same like peak point, but just without dropping stuff out before. Just everything very slowly goes. I might try that actually. I can really wind people up.
Yeah.
I wonder who the first producers were that stumbled upon the drops. Like, hey, I've got an idea. Yeah. How about when we're arranging this? Why don't we take like basically everything out, and then we'll bring it all in at once. No, you're mad. No, we'll just gently bring it all in. No, trust me on this one. This is gonna work.
Oh man, I want to know. I want to read that book, The History of the Drop. I want to read that book right now.
That's the book to write. That's the coffee table companion.
Yeah.
Everyone go, oh, yeah, no, I'll buy that on the crowdfunder. Brilliant. Yeah, got it. Oh, yeah, I have reflipped through it. Have you read it? No, I've never actually read it. I mean, we could just have it, and it just says like that Lorem Ipsum sort of stuff on the inside, but cool cover.
No, it's like Lorem Ipsum in like 6-point font until it gets to page 32. Then it's like Lorem Ipsum in 72-point font. Anyway, cheap joke. See what I did there?
Very nice, very nice. I don't know what is the first track. Let's. It was probably In a City Life. I don't know. Is that even got a draw sort of? No.
Well, no.
Pulp Fiction. No. So, what's the time frame roughly for Endless? Because I know you've got people signing up now to.
For the early access thing. Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm going to be slippery. I'm going to be a slippery fish about that. Mainly, I mean, we do have a timeline in mind, but these things can slip, and a lot of I think it would be foolish to commit ourselves to anything. But we're not there yet, but we will be there soon. How many O's soon has we're not sure about yet, but I mean, it's I need to get better at this. I need to get better at the whole kind of like, the sort of slick PR machine. But it's
a very
honest.
politician's answer, I think. Here, maybe have you considered a career in politics?
Well, no, I'll be shit at politics. I'm far too like worried about what people think of me and worried about the experiences people are having. But I mean, basically, we'll start rolling out like soon. But and then we'll build up to a public launch. So we'll probably release things in waves. We'll start in the tens of users, and then we'll go up to the hundreds of users, and then the
millions.
Thousands.
Goddamn millions of the fuckers.
Goddamn millions.
All improvising the living shit out of themselves all day long.
Yeah.
When was the last? Are you still playing out with a flow machine?
From time to time. Basically, founder commitments are pretty intense.
Yeah, sure.
So it's pretty. I mean, it's more than a full-time job at the moment. So, and basically, about this time last year, I was running endless stuff. We were working a government grant at the same time. So, and that's like the amount of red tape of that.
Yeah,
that was nuts. And I was running the plugin label and like making products for the plugin label and promoting that, and doing like creative technologist commissions and like doing the odd gigs with the flow machine. And I basically had a massive burnout.
Really?
I actually had to take two or 3 months off.
You went on silent retreat, didn't you?
I've been on a few. Yes.
Tell me about them.
That's not. I was being. Yeah,
I think the font size in the drop thing was better than that.
Well, yeah, I think it was. Yeah,
it'd be worth having a rating system on these. So that's anyone listening can let us know.
The bad joke. The thing is, it wasn't even obvious it was a joke, but no, it's really. I mean, they have.
For people who have no idea what this is, explain how it works.
So I think a lot of people have heard of Vipassana these days.
I haven't.
You haven't? Right, okay. It seems like a lot of people have. So basically, you go away for 10 days. 10 days seems to be the standard kind of time. And the ones... So I roll with the London Buddhist Centre and the Triratna Buddhist Order. Other Buddhist movements are available.
Yeah.
And so they run these retreats. They've got this retreat centre up in Suffolk called Vajrasana, which incidentally they did a video because they rebuilt it a couple of years ago, and they did a video to launch it, which I did the voiceover for.
Really?
So there's wearing my other cap and my putting my sort of Buddhist hat,
your orange,
in my orange thing, wearing my orange things, and
like kaftan or whatever.
Having given up all worldly goods.
Yeah.
And anyway, so the first one I went on was 2012, and that was actually before they rebuilt this center, and it was literally just like in basically a glorified barn, and a farmhouse. And so the format of those retreats, you have like a day and a half where you're still talking and you kind of get to know everyone else on the retreat. And then you have a day at the end when you come out of silence. And then in the middle, you have 7 days. Well, 7 days of... I mean, I lost my mind.
Right.
I absolutely lost my mind. Because... Well, I'd sort of decided beforehand. You know that thing you do when... and for my sins, I did it last weekend. I was like booked to this day festival with my girlfriend, and I just decided I wasn't going to enjoy it. And then of course I went there and I didn't enjoy it, which is really stupid. So, but anyway, I decided that this retreat I was about to go on was going to be like the most momentous occasion in my life. It was just going to change my life, and it basically did, because that's what I decided what it was going to do. Yeah, it was. I mean, it was really nuts actually. So that even when we were still talking in the meditation, so you probably spend about on these retreats, you spend maybe 4 or 5 hours a day meditating and doing rituals, stuff like that.
Led by someone else,
Yeah.
by a monkey.
Yeah, a monkey.
Yeah.
Yeah, led by a monkey. And I was, in my meditations, there was one meditation where I got this vision that I was like sitting on a chair and this like beam of light. No, I was in the chapel of my old school actually, and I was like sitting in there, and this beam of light was coming in, and it was like calling me and stuff like that. And throughout the retreat, there was this kind of like light being that was calling me and wanted me to like jump off the edge, off this kind of like imaginary abyss. Like it wanted me to jump into this light, basically. And that just got stronger and stronger and stronger. And I still like it still churns me up a bit actually talking about it. And basically on one of the last days of the retreat, I just kind of relented. I was just so, it was like terrifying. Like I knew it was going to be a really amazing thing to do, but I was just terrified and digging my heels in and like not wanting to jump off this abyss. Anyway, the last day I did, and just had this intense. I don't think I'll be able to like fully describe it and like hold my shit together. But basically, I ended up reliving a near-death experience that I had when I was a kid, just a few months old.
Right.
And basically, like, kind of came to like in my mother's arms in this room that like I had like an almost cot death when I was a kid, and my mum told me the story about this a number of times. She picked me up. I was just like blue and limp and like basically dead, and I came to like there like really vividly. It was quite
Holy shit.
Yeah.
So somehow deep locked away in a box somewhere in a cupboard somewhere in the back of your brain.
Yeah.
That little nugget had been sat there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that like really transformed my views on these kind of nuggets. Because we all have them, and to an extent, I think they're kind of like infinite. I don't think you ever get to the end of like these nuggets. You can do, I mean, I'm really into this stuff. I've had a kind of spiritual yearning ever since I was a kid. Actually, funny enough, I was going through a box of memorabilia just the other night, and I found like a journal that I kept from like 98, some entries from like 96 to 98. I was just like, God, I was still the same, like like looking for God, looking for like the divine, looking for spiritual stuff. I got involved with kind of like Alpha Course Christianity when I was a teenager. So it's always, I don't know, it's just really part of me, that kind of spiritual yearning.
What are your feelings on God now? I mean, what would you... So that, like, listening to various different things, like, I've read quite a lot of like Sam Harris's stuff. Like, I don't know if you've read his book Waking Up.
No.
Might be your sort of thing.
Well, it sounds like it. No, I have heard his name. Yeah,
it's a guy. It's like a guide to spirituality for non-religious people, and he's big into meditation and silent retreat, and also use of psychedelics in his earlier days.
Yeah.
And there's some very, very interesting stuff in it. Then also, like, I think the way Jordan Peterson describes God is very interesting, in that you would look at God as your highest possible calling in life.
Yeah.
And that's how it could be approached. You mean you could read the Bible with that in your mind as God, rather than a sort of omnipotent being that created the universe for a laugh. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean that's. I mean, I don't subscribe to that. I think
metaphysical.
Well, I just don't subscribe to this sort of. It's just quite a literal interpretation of what's. I mean, it's very a lot of these religious texts, all these religious texts, can be so open to interpretation, and I think what they're really pointing to is just a great mystery. I mean, it is a massive freaking mystery. We have no idea.
Yeah.
and as soon as you start to scratch below the surface of your experience, it's just like, wow, like what is going on here? And you can kind of you can always go further and get a bit more comfortable with this like weird stuff that's happening under experience, but there's no limit to that. It's just weird. It's just weird. Well, not weird as in like kind of scary. It's just like it's mysterious. It's unfathomable. And it's infinitely unfathomable.
Yeah.
And I think whenever I read that, well, whenever I hear people talking about that, or like I've got some friends who are quite devout Christians. I've had some conversations with people, with Muslims, but really, really interesting conversation with Muslims about what they think about Allah and so on. And when I hear people talk about whatever word they use for God, that's what it means to me, like an unfathomable, infinite mystery, and all I can hear is resonance really with what people are saying, especially if you're speaking to someone who's really like. Really kind of like embraced spiritual practices in their life, like whatever they are. I mean, from it could be a so-called organized religion, or it could be from like a less organized religion, or it could just be from them, just like walking around in a wild place on their own for a couple of days. It really just comes down to the same kind of language. The problem is that the only thing we have to talk about it with is language, and language, it has objects and subjects, and you have to thingize things, and there will never be language for us to really genuinely share like the unique and individual experiences that we have of like this infinite unfathomability.
Yeah.
And so all our attempts at talking about that will be fitful, but if we're going like as a species or a community, if we're going to make progress through those realizations we have as individuals, then we need to come together and find some kind of common language. It's not, if we were all these like completely lonely wandering people, I mean, I won't go deep into the whole sort of Buddhist stuff, but basically, what happened with when the Buddha gained enlightenment, there was this moment. When I say like when the Buddha gained enlightenment, I mean this. There's
in the story of the Buddha gaining enlightenment.
In the story of the Buddha getting enlightened, which is, it's a story. There was a moment where he thought like, there's no way I can communicate this to anyone. This is impossible. And then his next thought, or the next voice he heard, or however you want to talk about it, was, well, you just got to try. And I think that basically sums it up. It's like, we will never be able to talk about these kinds of experiences properly, but we have to try, because we have to. When you have these kinds of experiences, you realize that it's about connection. You really, after the end of these silent retreats, like, you just feel this massive sense of like resonance with things that move and breathe and live.
Is it on sort of a similar note to like taking a psychedelic drugs and the way that if you're on acid or whatever, there's suddenly the feeling of interconnectedness that kind of comes with, oh shit, we are all part of the same living, breathing organism.
I think it's exactly the same thing. I mean, it's I think the experiences you have with psychedelics are more difficult to kind of like bring back and integrate into your life, because it's just like, it's like switching on a big like and then it's off. Whereas if you can get into, I mean, I think it often happens if you go like the first long silent retreat you go on, for example. I think people often get, not always, but people often get like a sort of mind blown experience, and that experience can be as intense as like an acid trip or mushroom trip, but you get there. It's like you get there on foot rather than by jet.
Well, there seems to be a feeling that like doing it that way, doing it by meditation or doing it by Kundalini yoga or whatever ways you can get to these sort of higher altered states, that's a more like legitimate way of doing it, whereas just like taking DMT and going to the fucking moon for 15 minutes is like, that's cheating or something, that there's somehow more authenticity in doing it through the other ways.
Yeah.
Or do you think that the experiences are more long lasting when you go on foot?
Well, from the Buddhist perspective,
Sure.
I mean, that's a view. It's just a view. And there are some people who are very attached to that view, that those experiences are sort of more, experiences that you've so-called like walked to rather than taken a jet to.
Yeah.
Are more something. It really depends. I mean, you could, let's say your first encounter with that kind of state of mind could be through taking DMT, and that could change the rest of your life.
Yeah.
I've got friends who've had that experience, and then through DMT, it's led them to like transcendental meditation or to Buddhism or to all sorts of other things that have then been ways for them to explore that state more. So I don't know. I don't think you can really judge. I mean, I think one thing I would say, I wouldn't. Oh, there's a great Alan Watts quote. Was it something like, the first thing you do when you've got the message is hang up the phone.
Right.
And I think that he was using that to talk about psychedelics, because he did a bunch of psychedelics in his time. And so I don't think you'd want to. I don't know, but there are some people do like just continually, regularly take psychedelics. I mean, there are this whole ayahuasca ceremonies and stuff like that, where it's a whole ritual thing, and I think,
is that something you would ever think about?
No,
or?
I don't know. I
don't half seem like a faff.
Yeah, I'm just a bit like fragile and mental, basically, and I don't think.
Yeah, I would worry about like something that lasts 8 or 9 hours of very intense.
Yeah.
Like with the vomiting.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
And the everything. It's like
yeah.
And having to be out in a jungle or something. I can imagine if it works, I'm sure it's fantastic and life changing and amazing if you've got the right mindset going into it, but
yeah,
I don't know. I feel like there might be too much of a stop the ride, I want to get off, and not being able to get off situation.
Yeah,
I would rather just do 15 minutes of DMT.
Right. Yeah.
And like be able to like go to work 15 minutes later. Like.
Yeah. I mean that. Yeah. I mean that. I've never done DMT, and it it kind of scares the shit out of me. Given like how the kind of experiences I can have in my own life without like taking anything. I can scare myself enough with my own psychology without like accelerating it. So I'm a bit wary of DMT, but it amazes me that it is just like 15 minutes of like the most intense like.
It's wild. It's like you're on another planet. There's just it's almost impossible to explain.
Yeah.
Like but then it's like, and it's done, and you're completely sober. It's very peculiar thing that they're still sort of trying to understand and trying, because there was the notion that it releases something that's in your brain already, but now they're thinking that might actually not necessarily be the case.
Right.
I don't know. It's who's the guy? Is it Terence McKenna or?
That name rings a bell.
Yeah, that's the one to talk to about. I think there's a Joe Rogan documentary about it on Netflix.
Oh, okay, that'll be a good one. Always nice to have a Netflix recommendation.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm 2 years too late getting to Stranger Things.
Oh right.
Oh god, it's incredible.
It's quite scary actually.
It's pretty scary. Yeah. But exquisitely made.
Yeah.
And that synth, all those synths.
Yeah.
Just that intro sequence with the like film grainy sort of neon sign, and you zoom in, it's like it's just
Have you ever thought about doing music for film or?
Yeah, I do want in my kind of like less sure of what I wanted to do days. Well, actually, I'm still not sure what I want to do, but
what do you want to do when you grow up?
Well, no, I do. I do. Well, I think now what I want to do when I grow up is well, so big question. Basically, so the next thing I want to do, having like really got into this whole improvisation thing and really made that into a thing. I think my next thing is like I really want to reinvent composition.
Right, yeah, I guess a side project or
a bit
something.
Of a side, well, it's not. I mean, I've got all these ideas. It's basically around. Okay, yeah. So when I grow up, I would like to live in the countryside, and I'd like to have a really nice studio, and I would like to spend most of my mornings just like going for walks, doing exercise, meditating, just like sitting, watching nature float by, and then in the afternoons make some algorithms and then make some music.
And then reinvent composition.
Yeah, I've got this thing.
What does that mean?
Well, no, it's not reinventing that. It's a bit. I'm being grandiose, but I've got this. I think kind of inspired by what's happened, like the potential of Eurorack. I've got this idea of basically like parametric composition. So some of the stuff that I was building in like 3 or 4 years ago, which was kind of stuff that was going to go in the Flow machine, and was sort of like prototype stuff for Endless and all sorts of ideas. Well, I mean, which didn't really end up getting used in the end, but basically dealing with sequences. Basically dealing. How to explain this? It's like dealing with like sequences of notes, like sort of multiple data, like dealing with that more like you deal with particles in a 3D system, for example.
Right.
So with like in a particle system, you have multiple parameters that control the particles and how they interact. But there's no one-to-one mapping between the parameters and the particles. You're literally you're controlling how the particles, the rules which the particles obey when they interact with each other.
Okay.
So it's basically one idea that I sort of developed a bit, and I didn't really get much. It's just very time-consuming because it's quite like in-depth data structures to build this stuff. But basically, like building sequences, and these sequences could be recorded or things that you played in or stuff that's been like extracted from audio data or stuff like that, and then making a data structure of those things, but then treating those things as particles, and then having parameters that you can then treat how those particles then change and interact with each other in relationship to each other. Okay. So you've then got like a parametric sequencing, and then sequencing that using a system that's a bit more like the kind of keyframing that you get in video editing software, where you literally just take... It's like snapshots. It's like morphed snapshots, basically. And then building a system.
And so you take one snapshot, and then there's another snapshot over there, and it's how that everything moves
exactly
towards the next one. Yeah. I can imagine that being the sort of things people would lose their mind for in Eurorack format.
Well, exactly. So that's the thing. So I've got I'm sort of in my mind when I'm not sleeping because I can't sleep because there's too much stuff going on. I distract myself by sort of specking out a system of basically where all the sound generation happens through Eurorack. Just because the sound's really good and you can have analog stuff in there, so you don't have this whole kind of like aliasing bollocks that you have to deal with. And you can make digital oscillators that don't alias, but they're pretty heavy on the CPU because there's lots of kind of like predictive polynomial stuff you have to do to get that to not alias. But right. Anyway, so sound generation done through Eurorack modules, and controlled through like an expert sleepers ADAT thing. I mean, I'm sort of hoping that like between now and the next time I actually have some spare time to do this stuff, that expert sleepers will come up with some kind of like MADI or Dante kind of like super multi-channel thing where you can have like 128 channels of digital audio
Yeah.
piped in and out of Reactor to control your rack, and you've just basically got a rack full of modules with all the CVs like pre-mapped, and it's basically like locked down with like a Perspex faceplate over it, and then you're just doing all the control from within.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Reactor.
I almost threw my Expert Sleepers module out the window, actually.
Really?
Actually, the only thing that saved it was that I didn't have a window. It almost brought me to tears, actually.
Really? Why? What was?
I just couldn't get it to work. I had this series of failures along the way. Like I bought a Mu2 interface to run it off.
Yeah.
The light pipe thing, and then turned out I'd bought the wrong module, and then I'd bought the SP diff one. So there's just loads of different ones. They look exactly the same, but they've got a slightly different connector on them. I'm not great with all this stuff. So then I bought the next one, the right one.
Yeah.
And then the sound card just wouldn't work properly, and then I got that to work properly, and then I just could not get like the VST thing to work. It just wouldn't have it. I almost reduced me to tears. I threw some stuff and stormed out. Went to the pub, and I've been intending to sell both. And I've still got the two modules that I've just were torn out of the rack.
Right, like bent.
No, they're still in perfect condition, but I do intend to sell them. But this is like a year and something ago, and I need to get around to putting those fuckers on eBay.
Oh no!
Maybe I should try and actually make them work.
Well, yeah. Oh man, I had a good experience with the Expert Sleepers. In fact, to be honest, I bought.
Yeah, everyone loves them, but I just couldn't make it work. I think it might just be a little bit beyond my capabilities.
No, I doubt it. I think you probably just had a bad experience.
Yeah, well, I did. I'll tell you that.
You're a capable man.
Yeah. So, is the Flow Machine is it entirely sample based then?
Well, it's had various different incarnations. The current incarnation, I've got Slew running into it as a source.
Okay.
So that's obviously like is virtual analog. Anyway, it's like a synth. It's a soft synth,
right? Yeah.
That actually generates stuff. But the rest of it's pretty much sample based.
Right.
But samples going through effects. So, the more kind of passes that you go through the effects chain and mashing stuff up, the more process it gets, and the harder it is to claim that it's really a sample. Yeah,
sure.
So that's how like the sort of the complexity of the sound that comes out of the Flow Machine, to the degree it is complex, happens. It's just through like repeatedly putting stuff through my kind of like mediocre DSP algorithms.
Have you thought about just trying to make it a program like that you could sell?
The Flow Machine?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, that was certainly the original idea with Endless. I mean, that was kind of that's where the whole project started.
Right.
I've always wanted, from ever since I did products with Native Instruments, did the thing in 2009, and there's been a conversation with them about like, could we do some sort of Flow Machine? Is there a way that we could make a Flow Machine or something like that? But I mean, the difficulty in that, we're talking to a big company like Native Instruments who've got, they've got their product lines, they know their market, they know their customers, and it's a huge organization now. What happens with these projects is they always end up, maybe we could make a little feature in Machina, and it's just like, well, no.
It could be a VST. Like I've not even seen what it looks like on the screen, but I just in my head, right? You could have it as a VST that could be clocked, and
totally. I mean, the challenge there with, the Flow Machine experience, the Flow Machine experience.
Sure.
Yeah.
Tell me about the experience.
Well, it's so kind of wedded to the hardware that it's quite, and also
that's true, isn't it? You probably would have to have a
dedicated piece of hardware, and then once you're doing that, the whole, like, as just like the commercial considerations for making hardware are just mental. I mean, it would be. I'm sort of thinking of particular sort of companies who've started doing hardware, and to start off doing hardware is just a bad idea, I think.
Yeah, with collaboration with, I don't know, Novation, Akai, one of the really sort of like...
Yeah, would definitely make
thing,
sense. But yeah, it's because it is a workflow thing. And the whole premise is it's like everyth's there and it's one press away.
Yeah.
So even like trying to like map it onto a push or something is it's limited. You got, but no, it's not that limited. But if if you're running it as a VST plugin, then just piping controllers in to a VST, and so the mapping always works, and you want to have feedback on the pads about what's going on.
Yeah,
it's just it's complex, and you have to support these different controllers, and it's
Have you seen Beardy Man's Beardytron?
Beardytron, yes, yeah. I mean, it's I not that much. I mean, I think there's a bit of a sort of mutual coyness between me and Beardy, because it's a bit like, we're both sort of doing the same thing. It's just,
But yeah, there isn't, apart from you two, like, who else is there that's really, I don't know, that's really doing it? It's just the two of you, really, in terms of like, here's this rig that I've spent fucking years building. It's really good, and I'm really good at it. Like, there's people who are like, well, I've sort of sandwiched together a few bits of hardware and stuff, and kind of having a go at it. But like, in terms of building shit from scratch, like Dave Gamble worked with Darren on the first version of it. I think it got pretty intense.
No, it is. I mean, it is intense. I mean, I was lucky in a way to have just like accidentally stumbled through a sort of misspent youth of like dicking around with Reactor. I stumbled upon basically being able to program my own stuff, and I think that because I think it got intense because Daz had to basically stump up money to like pay someone to build it, and it's not insignificant. I mean, the amount of time that it takes, it's a big build. And so when there's like your own money involved, there's a lot of nervousness, and as with Endless, it's just a weird thing. Money makes you nervous when you spend it, but to build something like the Flow Machine or the Beardytron just takes time and a lot of expertise. It's
wonder, if you wanted to embark on such a project, you wonder whether or not your time would be better spent actually learning how to do it yourself rather than trying to earn the money to pay someone else to do it. It's a weird balancing act. Or
I don't know. I mean, there's pros and cons. I mean, when we started building Endless a couple of years ago, the guys like the devs, Adam and Ash, they were both really trying to persuade me to like get into learning C++, and you pick it up really quickly because you know all the concepts, and you can build. You basically like built C++ in Reactor anyway, like all the data structures of how to do this. So, but I resisted. I'm quite glad in retrospect that I did resist doing that because now it frees me up to be a bit more kind of front of housey and stuff like that, and to be like really essential to the dev team now as well. I mean, would be too much. If you don't have that front of, you can't do it all. Like I think if all of your attention goes into the front facing part of it, that's probably ultimately going to be better for the project. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Much as I would, I mean, I would really like to be able to code stuff in C++ because obviously that you're not sort of tied to I wouldn't be tied to Reactor as a platform, and I could do all sorts of things. I could build my own apps, and but in the grand scheme, it's more fun. It's more fun doing stuff with more people. Yeah, definitely. And obviously it raises loads of challenges, and I've had to like grow organs that I didn't know even like you needed to have. I'm going to say organs, like skills, my skill set.
It's tricky like that sort of early startup stage. You're like, all right, so I have to be an accountant now as well, and I have to be I have to be on top of, I have to be a marketer.
Yeah.
And I'm creating the fucking product as well.
Yeah.
And I have to.
Yeah. It's quite fun. It's quite fun. I mean, I have to say, I found it. I mean, it's really daunting. So, like, we raised a small investment round early this year, just like a friends and family round. And just that whole experience of like actually raising an investment round and going through all the process, like some stuff, some stuff fucked up along the way. We had some like curveballs, and there were a few points when like the investment round almost totally fell apart, and there were a couple of days where we're just like, oh fuck, this project might just be completely over and everything's gone, like in just a couple of days' time. And it's just, but that's just, it's just like learning that is how it is. That's how it works. And I've done quite a bit of reading of it, sort of startup literature and blogs and stuff like that. And everybody says, I mean, in your early years, you'll go through a few near-death experiences in the company, and you won't be able to expect them. They'll come out of the blue, and whatever it's, some kind of like there's a trademark dispute, or you fall out with someone you didn't expect to fall out with, or I mean,
you just run out of money,
or you just run. Well, I mean that's generally that's the main thing. Yeah. It basically comes in, run out of money, but going through that whole thing, and then actually now having, we sold a bit of the company, which gave us some money to then carry on the project, and now, in a few months' time, we're going to have to sell a bit more of the company to carry on with the project, and it's just like, how the hell did I get into this? But I know, I know why I got into this, because I really believe the thing that we're doing is like really going to be of value to people, and like, and this is the only way to go about it. It couldn't have happened any other way. And so that kind of makes it quite interesting. Learning like how shares work and how companies are valued, and how investment work, and how to speak to investors and different types of investors and what they're looking for and all this stuff. It's kind of like, it's really daunting, but then when you're doing it for something that you really believe in, it's just like, okay, it's kind of cool as well.
Yeah, I mean, it takes to be able to deal with it right. It takes a certain personality type, really, like to have a.
Yeah, it's not me.
Well, it's not me either. It's like my levels of conscientiousness are just simply not there. Like to be able to really, like I can create a good product.
Yeah.
But the running of all of that, dealing with shares, dealing with investors, dealing with the financial side of it, I don't know, it's like there's a sort of brick wall up in my brain of when it comes to
yeah, I mean the same. Yeah, I mean I had that same brick wall and until like I was up against it. It was just like, okay. I mean, there have been points, but last year when I had that massive burnout, there I was just like, do I even want to do this, and so on. But then I realised that the problem was not endless. The problem was like all the other stuff I was trying to do around it, and I was just trying to be a fucking superhero, like to run my own plugin label to earn the cash to like pay the employees of Endless, and it was just like, it's fucking stupid, it was what I was trying to do was impossible, and that actually it wasn't. Endless was not the problem. It's just all the other stuff. So. But then I realized, to make that happen, I just had to jump over some walls I didn't want to jump over, like the whole investment.
Yeah,
Marquee.
I heard an interesting thing about personality types and the correlation between personality types and political leanings. Like
right.
So if you're on the left, you're much more likely to be open, creative, but much lower in conscientiousness and industriousness, and basically less organized but much more creative. Whereas if you're more conservative, you're less creative and less open, but much better at running things and sticking to a thing and seeing it through and getting it all done. So what happens a lot in, say, your Silicon Valley, or what you can think about with your startup, is that you have the left the liberal creatives come up with the thing, and then you get the conservatives to run it.
Right, yeah.
And you go, well, look, here's our idea, and this is good. We think this is going to be really great. So we're going to do this. But if you guys could make sure, like, the behind the scenes, everything fucking works properly and runs, and the accounts are done on time and everything. Can you take care of that? Yeah, all right, we'll take care of that. And then we'll just come up with 1,000 loony ideas for new features and stuff, and then you can roll your eyes at us, and we'll think about the ones that are actually going to make money.
Yeah. No, I mean, in some ways, I'm still on the lookout for, like, because at the moment I'm doing all the kind of businessy side stuff as well. But yeah, it would be great to find someone who just like, well, like really gets the project and really gets the vision, but also really sees the potential and like totally understand business stuff. I mean, I've actually we've got some really good help, like we've got some really good advisors who are kind of helping me with that stuff. But at some point it would be really nice to go like, okay, like you take all this, like all the money stuff and do the money stuff. It would be great to just be doing product stuff and just like communication stuff, and to an extent the marketing stuff I enjoy, because
that's been a skill of yours though, definitely. Like that video you did for the mouth,
right? Yeah,
like that is if it had just had a normal Native Instruments video for it, I don't think it would have sold anywhere near as many. It was just like, oh yeah, this is cool. Look, that's wicked. Hey, share that. Like, have you seen that Tim Exile thing? All right, yeah. And the same with the finger as well.
Right, yeah.
I think that played into it.
It definitely did. And it's
you're a bit of a character, Tim, aren't you?
Oh, thanks.
You're a bit of a hoot. Yeah.
Hoot. I don't know. I mean, I do like getting up out front and
you show off.
I'm a show off. I'm an attention seeker. I'm a highly fragile, narcissistic attention seeker, people pleasing, codependent. It's all there. I mean, I'm a deeply flawed human being. And that's which drives me to like try and wave my hands at people and come up with cool stuff that might get their attention, might make them like me, please.
Creativity out of pain.
Come on. Well, I mean, creativity out of pain. I mean,
What do you do if you're one of those people that's just never really experienced any hardship or really gone through it at all? How are you supposed to make great art then?
I don't know. I mean, I won't name any names, but I definitely got a couple of friends of mine who really successful musicians who I think fall into that category of just sort of, I mean, not painless. Everyone experiences.
Everyone's got their own struggle.
Everyone's got their own struggle. Yeah, everyone struggles, of course, but who don't get caught up in kind of like that browbeating, like, what do I do? I'm trying, but who also create incredible art that's really successful, or music that's really successful. So
maybe you don't need the struggle.
I don't think. Yeah, I think it's I might even go as far as to say it is a bit of a
cliche.
It's a bit of a cliche, a bit of a myth. That you have to struggle for good art.
One must suffer for their art.
I don't think you have to suffer. I think you do have to be in touch with the unfathomable infinite. I think that's the one, like
just get in touch with the unfathomable infinite.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, don't go through the cesspit. Just call him up. Call up the unfathomable intimate.
Get intimate with the unfathomable infinite.
Get intimate with the unfathomable infinite.
There you go. There's Endless's new tagline.
That's not bad. That's not bad, actually. Yeah.
20%. Come on. You're giving out shares. You know how to do it now.
Yeah, right. Okay. Yeah, I'll give you. Do you want? 0.05%.
Get me on the payroll. Yeah, come on. Yeah. That's the thing, isn't it? To get people to work for shares, but then it's worked out with like, was it Facebook lot, or was it the Google lot that were like, just working for shares, it's rubbish, and now that just like,
bajillionaires,
ridiculous money. Was it? I think it might have been Google that had a load of people in there like, we should never have given all those shares away.
Right? Yeah. It's funny. I mean, I have no experience now of obviously we're just starting out, and to an extent, I mean, Endless does nominally have a valuation because we like raise a round of investment at a certain valuation, so it does have a valuation, but it's complete. It's
pull numbers out of the sky.
Yes, it's numbers out of the sky. Well, I mean, it has to be sensible given like where you're at and how far you're from launch. And
but it's between £15 and £20.
Exactly. It's between £15 and £20.
Yeah, it's like a half decent meal.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a meal's worth.
A gastro.
It's a meal's worth of a company.
Yeah, yeah.
So this whole, when companies go on to get these like ridiculous valuations, it just seems so seems so far fetched now, and not really part of the equation. But then, you also have to like give out sort of decent chunks of the company to people who are the core team, to sort of like incentivize people, and it does.
Thought about Dragon's Den?
Oh, bloody hell!
I'd love to see you explain the concept to Bannatyne.
It's really fun. It's really funny. It's like this is like the thing that that people come. Oh, we should go on Dragon's Den.
It's like telling a singer they should go on X Factor.
There is no way that I want any of those guys on our cap table. Well, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it's also that like, I mean, the whole Dragon's Den, the way it is, this kind of like really ballsy, like pokey investor types who are just like, yeah, what? Yeah, you want my money? Yeah, I'm just gonna like shame you
with
and make
stack of cash next.
Yeah, with a stack of cash next to them, going like, yeah, you want this? Well, I'm just gonna sit here and like make you ridiculous and make you ashamed. And I mean, I've seen some kind of investor people take that approach. Like you have these kind of like startup days where people come and pitch, and then the investors will pick holes in them. And there are some characters who will just...
Is that an incubator?
Well, it could be an incubator, or it could be, at some conference or something like that. I mean, there's all sorts of places where these things happen, and by and large, investor types they're very cordial and polite. I mean, they'll ask sharp and searching questions, but sometimes you get people who are just a little bit, yeah, your idea is shit, and it's just, well, there's no, it's not necessary. It's not necessary.
I was listening to. Have you heard any of the Tim Ferriss podcast?
No, I've heard his name again, but
he's sort of big in the startup.
Yeah,
world. He wrote that book, The 4 Hour Work Week.
Oh
a load of other books as well. He's very, very good. On his
I need to
podcast, the last one I listened to had him talking to Chris Sacca, who is a VC venture capitalist, and I've done all sorts of stuff, but he was like an early investor in Facebook, Twitter, loads and loads of stuff. He was working with Google, managing their investments and stuff, and was talking about all the stuff that he missed out on. A guy who started GoPro, came in and was like, "Oh yeah, here's the thing. Oh, it's going to be sort of small and like, but quite robust and blah blah." And he sort of looked at him and was like, "Yeah, but like the Chinese and the Taiwanese, they're just." You don't stand a chance when it comes to this small electronic. No.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, I saw him out skiing the other day and we bumped into each other, and he's always keen to bring that up as soon as we meet him. He also passed on Snapchat.
Right.
He was like, yeah, it seems all right, but I don't know, it's just another social network. Nah.
Yeah.
Nah.
I mean, I could definitely understand with Snapchat. I mean, no disrespect to Snapchat, but it started, a few years after, a few now big incumbents had started. Facebook and Twitter had started, and it started a bit after that. And everybody was every man and his dog was trying to like make a social network. So I'd imagine that like all the investors would have just been like inundated with pitch decks for like social. It's a social network where the videos delete themselves. And it's just like okay.
Well, do you think they were in like meetings going, look? When you're trying to get like some nudes out of a girl, but she's like, no, I don't want to send it because like then you'll have it and you can send it to all your mates and like then it'll be on the internet forever because we've got a solution for you. Tell her no, it gets deleted straight away. That could have been their pitch.
I don't.
Because wasn't that presumably the sort of thing?
Well, that was. I mean,
that's not how it started.
That was the thing that
kind of nudes.
Yeah, no, I mean that was the thing that got it kind of notoriety.
Yeah,
and that's what got it headlines. I mean, it's like
I'm doing him a terrible disservice. Like, well, no, actually, it wasn't just for sending news. I mean, that was part of it, sure, but it wasn't the whole thing.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, what would they say? I mean, it's It's hard to say. It's hard to say without being. Because at the end of the day, it's like, I can't remember the founder, CEO of Snapchat. I can't remember his name now. It escapes me. But he's this young guy, and he probably had quite a clear vision for. Because I think that these startups that like do work and take off, I think often the people who are starting them have really like experienced some aspect of like the human condition or like society or some zeitgeist thing that's really going on, and they like have really understood it and they really get it, and even and they keep on like understanding it and getting it, so they kind of like as the product develops, they kind of like steer it in the right way, and that is just hard to put a finger on, I think.
Well, it was Instagram it was originally called Bourbon.
Bourbon, yeah.
And the picture...
It was just filters for pictures that you then posted somewhere else.
Yeah, but it was... Yeah. No, it was like a sort of Foursquare thing. It was like a location-based thing, and then you would take some pictures and sort of add them to the location and stuff. And the filters was a kind of... Oh, we thought that's quite nice.
Yeah, stick some filters in and then...
Found that people were just using it just to put filters on their photos. I'm like, let's have a little bit of a pivot here.
Yeah. And also then they started...
The first... fucking billion.
Yeah. It's mental. Yeah. I mean, but their first thing, they didn't even have a social network in the first Instagram. It was literally, it's just like, make your photos look like retro and shit.
Yeah, in the first version of Instagram.
Yeah, they didn't.
Yeah, no,
it wasn't a social network. It was literally just
make your photos look old, sort of, or cool or whatever. There was a few going around and they would sort of make them look like Polaroids.
Like Hipstagram. What was it? No, Hipstagram.
Something like hipsteroid, hemorrhoids,
hipsterly.
I'm sure it got. I don't know if you remember that
hipster.io.
That comedy song that was on YouTube, like "I Love My Life as a Dickhead." Being a dickhead's cool.
Yeah.
It was like name checked in that.
Yeah, was it right? Yeah.
That's another thing like Nathan Barley that seems to get truer every year.
Yeah. God, it's amazing how prescient Nathan Barley was. It's mental. I mean, it's still applied. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it just gets more and more.
Yeah, as Vice gets more ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's just gone off the deep end now. I saw one thing, and it was an article about someone who used to have sex with different fruit, and it was you warm up a bit of a melon, and it's all right. And it's like,
right.
All right, Vice, nice one. Okay, cool.
All right, God, yeah.
It was one. At least it wasn't one that starts like "Dear all men."
Right. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Cool. Yeah. Can't we just do the do's and don'ts section again? That's what everyone used to read it for.
Yeah.
The absolute glory days of it.
Yeah.
So look, where can people sign up for?
Oh right. Yeah.
Early Days Endless.
Endless with 3 S's.
Yep.
.fm.
.fm.
Yeah. Endless.fm. You can also follow us on Twitter at EndlessFM, 3 S's, all one word, EndlessFM, and Instagram that we were just talking about at EndlessFM, and Facebook /EndlessFM.
There's a Facebook group, or
yes, and of course, really, it's great. Yeah, it's absolutely great. Absolutely great.
Oh yeah,
absolutely great. We've got this great. No, it's really, really cool. Actually,
Project just let me in yesterday.
Shout out to Project Rockpool crew if you're watching.
Hold tight.
It's a really great bunch of people. Just basically talking about all sorts of music stuff. It's quite kind of like high level questions, searching questions about like, it's probably more the whys, like why music? Why do you do music like this? Why would you want to do music like that? How does it fit into your life? This kind of stuff. Because I mean that's what obviously we're really interested in that at Endless, because we don't just want to make like a new oscillator. Yeah. It's some
more wavetables.
More wavetables. Although, now actually, no, we do want to make some new oscillators and wavetables, but but that's as part of the thing. But yeah, so it's a really it's just a really cool group, really good chat. It's quite it's good chat, good questions, good
top banter, decent memes.
Quite it's more kind of like people opening up. There's a lot of like opening up about like I'm trying to. I should have a look now. What recent questions on Project Rockpool? But anyway, it's what's that?
So just a load of geezers harping on about stuff.
Yeah, I mean,
about cables and things.
yeah. I mean, it is. Yes, our gender split is quite.
Well, that sounds very divisive, Tim. Appalling. We should shut you down.
Yeah,
I'm going to round up a Twitter lynch mob.
I mean, we're. I mean, it definitely is a thing. I mean, it is still a problem in electronic music that it's just very, very male orientated. You know, we look at the audiences for like for stuff that like pulls people in. It's just like it just pulls in 90% guys, and it's hard. I don't know how to.
But just does it? I don't think women are going. I really want to go to that live modular night, but I just, I'm not going to because it just. I mean, there might be a couple, but I just think things are more appealing to.
Yeah, well, I mean, it kind of harks back a bit to our context. Chat.
We'd love more girls there. It's not
yeah,
like we're trying to push them away. Like, please, girls, come to the show. It'd be brilliant. But it's not. It's 95% blokes.
But I mean, I think it's a bit like in the what we're talking about with like the drop, how the drop has become kind of non-negotiable in drum and bass. It's just evolved that way. The context has evolved that way. Yeah, and how. Kind of gender roles, how gender roles have just become really ossified, and so what people expect, like no matter you will have been brought up, so as a female, you would have been brought up most likely, but just being kind of conditioned in the sort of the gender thinking of the time, which is very much split into gender roles and how things like should and shouldn't be done. And this big conversation has opened up now where people really want to challenge that, and it's totally right. I mean, it should be challenged because it is too locked in. So we end up in this scenario where there's big electronic nerdy gatherings of people that are like 90% guys, and as you point out, that's not like a sin in its own right. It's more like it's not like a moral wrong in its own right, but it is a result of just conditions kind of like perpetuating conditions and things becoming entrenched. And
do you think it would, without these conditions, do you think it would just naturally fall 50-50? If you took all sort of blank slates humans.
Well, I think I don't think we're ever going to be able to. I think the gender roles, we are never going to be able to just like we're not going to be able to like surgically remove those from the collective consciousness. That I mean, it's not that we shouldn't try. But because I think it's fair to say, like, where we're at now, it's too polarized and things are too fixed, and I think it's really good that we've got this movement like trying to kind of rebalance things, or at least like open up, or at least kind of like push back against these various conditionings that make things like very male or very female.
Well, I think we need more female bin collectors and ditch diggers and oil miners, and let's get it 50-50. Come on, girls.
I mean, it's just complicated, and it's like it's also slightly. I mean, terrifying because I mean the thing is, if I'm honest, I don't really understand it. I don't. To some extent, it is sort of baffling.
I think with a lot of things, there is a biological component, and with a lot of things, there is a social conditioning component. I think you would be mad to deny either. Yeah. And you look at countries like Scandinavia, where they've done. Scandinavia's not a country, but like the Scandinavian countries, where they've done more than anywhere else to kind of try and actually legislate for equality of outcome. Yeah, that has only made it more polarized.
Oh, has it? Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Where they've in countries like Sweden or Norway or wherever, where people really, maybe not 100%, but as close to 100% have the opportunity to do whatever they want to do.
Yeah.
Like, in it is, all right, maybe it's nowhere near 100%, but in terms of where we are in the world, like, those countries are
pretty on it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's meant more of a split between men and women doing different things, like more male engineers, more female nurses.
Right.
Like, it's, it is, whether or not that's down to, decades and hundreds of years of conditioning, or whether or not it's, there's a biological component to it.
Yeah.
Like, it's, this is, it's a lot of research has been done on it by people looking for the opposite answer. Like, they didn't want that answer. Like, they were really looking to try and be like, oh no, look, if you give them the option, it'll be completely 50-50, but it's turned out that it hasn't. So it's it's a big question, it's a big discussion, it's an interesting topic. People get very passionate about it.
Yeah,
as
it does.
Should. It's like, you want everybody to have, you really want equality of opportunity, like people to really be able to not think that anything is off limits for them. You wouldn't want there to be girls that would think, I'd really like to get into music production or DJing or whatever, but it seems all a bit blokey and that's putting me off. You would never want that, like, because like, no one's saying there's a difference of ability. No one isn't a fucking moron. Like, no one's going, oh, girls can't DJ, but you high. Like, it's everyone should know that they can do whatever is going to make them happy and make them, you know, if that's the career you want to take. If you're a girl and you want to, work on an oil rig, or if you're a guy and you want to be a nurse or a lawyer or whatever the more female dominated careers are, you go for it, do what's going to make you happy. But it's I don't know, it's a big topic.
It's a big old topic, and
and emotionally charged,
and emotionally charged, and emotionally charged, yeah.
Oh, men and women, eh? Whoa. So endless everything with 3 S's basically on all the socials.
Everything with 3 S's on the socials. Also come on to the Project Rock Pool with 3 O's.
Has it got 3 O's?
It's got 3 O's. Yeah, Project Rock Pool with 3 O's
on the Facebook.
On the Facebook. Yeah. It's a cool little Facebook group. Just it's a group.
Be nice to each other, innit? Yeah.
Yeah, be nice to each other. I mean, there's a lot of nice going on.
Yeah, I bet.
There was a lot of nice. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. It's good. It's good. And sign up at endless with 3s's.fm because we're building a kind of early access list. So the further up that list you are, and we've got this little kind of thing that if you share it and if you introduce friends, then we'll like bump you up the list a bit.
Oh, that's cool.
Which is a bonus.
Yeah, nice.
So just to encourage people to help us get the word out. And we will be rolling out in the future.
Yeah, okay, that's suitably vague. Wonderful. Tim, thanks so much for coming on.
Well, thank you very much for having me. It's been
my pleasure.
A blast.
Yeah. You can come on again when it's out.
Oh yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, okay.
Smart,
yeah, you're on if you'll have me.
Damn right.
Brilliant.
Might
cool.
get you pissed next time. lads. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. If you want to support the podcast, you can share it with your friends, share it with your mum, share it with your stepdad. You can give us a 5-star review on iTunes. You can subscribe so you don't miss any episodes. You can scream it from the rooftops. You can whisper it into a lover's ear post-coitus. Thank you very much for listening. Hope you enjoyed. Love you very much.